and it almost looked like it had calf ears that stuck out to the side, that went out. And it was solid black.
You stopped seeing movement of joints in the tail, and it just was a black streak that left the building. And it wasn't just from how fast it was. It had basically gone from physical creature to almost shadow.
No. All right, Phantom Freaks, we are back. Phantom Freaks Paranormal. We're going to try to do a breakdown and analysis of this video here. I've been wanting to do this for a while because it has some stuff in it that I'm going to discuss here on this channel. There will be a little bit of discussion going on because there are certain things that need to be talked about that are finally starting to come out in the paranormal field that it used to be you couldn't really get into these things. It was a pretty dogmatic field, and now it's starting to with a lot younger crowd coming in, it's starting to be a lot more open-minded. So we're going to explore some of that stuff, and this episode includes a bit of it here. So this is the Paranormal Files. If you haven't heard of them, this is Colin's YouTube channel, very large paranormal YouTube channel. If you're new to it, definitely go subscribe. If you haven't seen the episode, go find the episode. I will have it linked in the description below, as always. And this is a crazy one. This is about the Jersey Devil. And even though this seems like this might be a cryptid situation, you will see here that it is thoroughly explored that this is not necessarily a cryptid animal situation, that this is likely paranormal in nature. And there are a lot of cases around like this. This is part of the discussion that's going to go down around this theme. There seems to be a lot of cases where people think it's certain animals and cryptids, that it's actually paranormal. It may seem very physical, like there is an animal standing right in front of you about to rip you to pieces, but it is turning out that, and I think I know potentially what entity is involved in this. And there's one or two other people that I've seen that are starting to come out with the same theory as me. I've been looking at this for a long time, and I will share some of my experiences here as we go along. But at this first half, we'll be taking a look at a few clips from the episode and going over some common themes here, and then we'll get into some audio analysis at the end. We have a little bit there, but it's pretty hard hitting. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, comment. As always, let me get into it right now.
Tonight on the Paranormal Files, we're deep in the New Jersey Pine Barrens, one of the most dangerous and most haunted places in the entire state. For decades, the Pine Barrens has been a place where murderers come to dispose of dead bodies, where spirits roam amongst the trees, and where one notorious creature nicknamed the Jersey Devil calls home.
All right, that was the intro there. We're going to move on through these clips and just comment them as we go. Once again, definitely head over to the Paranormal Files and give a like and a subscribe over there, and let them know Phantom Freaks sent you. We're going to be going through breaking down all of these different paranormal channels, episodes, and seeing if we can pull the audio out mostly, but we will be doing a lot of discussion. This is kind of another episode that has kind of derailed me because I meant to originally just do purely audio analysis for the most part, but there's so much coming out so fast, and I'm kind of behind, that I'm trying to catch up and get some of this discussion out of the way, because it's getting steamrolled. They're knocking it out. They're knocking out episodes weekly, if not bi-weekly, and we got to catch up. So here we go. Let's see what else we got here.
Please buckle up. As we always say, prepare yourself, bless yourself, protect yourself before watching, because I know we've been doing demonic investigations lately, but this is a very, very dark and evil location. It's a place you should never go to alone at night, like our guides today told us.
And I wanted to include that clip because that is very real. That is very real, what he just said there. And I would advise the same. Be very careful. This stuff is quite wild, and it's getting wilder. It seems to be. It's getting out of hand as time goes on here, to where it's getting pretty bold. And yeah, you're definitely gonna have to be on your P's and Q's.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Mike Robinson.
I'm Stefan Coulter.
Okay, and we are in Leeds Point, New Jersey, and we're about to get into some investigative work and bring to you some proof about the Jersey Devil legend. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stop at an old Leeds property, an old Leeds foundation, and an impression in the earth.
Now, these two guys here, definitely a very, very, I mean, they did a very good job of leading Colin into this investigation and giving him all the local, breakdown and the things they've experienced. They have seemed to, as we'll see here in a second, they have seemed to pretty quickly come to the conclusion as well that this is a paranormal thing. This is something that is, and we'll get into this more. There's these locations, and it's not just out in the wilderness. At certain, places, residents, buildings that you see a lot of the teams go to. There's a lot of entities that are, for lack of a better term, shapeshifters. It seems to be where the term originally maybe have come from about, in the old legends about shapeshifters. We kind of think of them in modern day as, they're physical beings that can somehow transform themselves into different things. That's not exactly what it is. They are very spiritual. They can be very translucent and walk through walls type of beings, but seem to be able to appear as all kinds of different stuff. People, things, animals, cryptids, all kinds of stuff they can appear to people as, and in a lot of cases somehow solidify into something that can really, it really seems physical. It's standing in front of you. It put a footprint in the ground. It slashed something, through something, broke a tree in half. It can be very, very physical, even if it's only temporary. They have the ability under certain conditions to be very physical. So this is what we're getting into here, and you'll see as we go along. This is starting to come out more and more, and it's not just going to be me. You're not going to be able to blame me and say I'm crazy. It's going to be a few people you're going to have to drag down with me. So let's continue.
And you guys actually think you might have seen the Jersey Devil?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Hands down.
Absolutely.
Recently
We have picture proof. We have picture proof that we're going to show you. Like I said, I'm going to send you everything that I have and all the evidence that we have to support that. It's to the point where we believe it followed us home.
We've had strange things
happen. I had hoof prints in my yard. He had scratches on his steps, and we have actual pictures of that to prove that.
Okay, let's continue here, because I think they get into a little more into the theory.
We just had a local stop.
Dude, that's insane that he just pulled over and he found a slaughtered deer, just like you guys. But there's pentagrams, and he saw a cult.
And we just said that they do satanic rituals.
Yeah.
And the reason why they're talking about this, you'll see in the full episode. Yeah, they found very strangely slaughtered deers and very, for just the general term, satanic type of stuff, stuff that may more commonly fall into witchcraft or Wicca or a lot of other different types of occult activity they're finding around the location. And the locals are also finding it. And they've taken pictures of it and documented it. But we'll go on.
One of the locals told us that people come here to practice Satanism. And I think, this is just my personal opinion, that it has something to do with the legend. It's almost like paying homage to it.
Oh, yeah.
To appease it. Because One of my friends who shot the documentary with us, they was at this other location. She walks up and she finds a shower curtain wrapped up, and when she opened it up, inside was boiled eggs and aloe, and it freaked her out. She said it was warm. She was like, this is not good.
Now, I did look up what that could possibly be. You know, I'm not the world's authority on spells and witchcraft and black magic and all of that. But it seems to be, at least in certain, and there's several different, when it comes to these different rituals and spells, there's several different variations of the same thing a lot of the times, depending on the region, the location, and the particular sect of either Wicca or sorcery or whatever you want to call it. They do different versions of sometimes things that are relatively the same spell. So I did find, generally speaking, that with eggs, it is said that they have a protective quality in certain rituals where they can rub the eggs on them and do certain things that the egg will show them that, you know, they've trapped a bad energy, or somebody has cast a spell on them, and they can trap the energy in the eggs and discard the eggs to discard the bad energy or the bad spirit. Same with aloe. Aloe is seen to be protective. Again, protective kept coming up. And I'm taking the general approach of those two things. There was probably somebody doing a ritual there, in this case that he's speaking of, to try to protect themselves or get rid of bad energy, bad spirits. They probably were having spiritual activity going on or something. Something alerted this practitioner that something was going on negatively that they wanted to discard and protect themselves from. That's what it would appear from my cursory research of what he's talking about. Nevertheless, the area definitely has people doing all kind of, I mean, when you got the deer, and you'll see the photo evidence in the clip, when you got the deer that is being slaughtered, stuff like that, which may be the more quote unquote satanic groups that come out and do certain rituals, that's kind of more of offerings and stuff, which, like he said, could be to appease it, to gain favor with it, to, whatever it is they're doing. Could be more worshiping, or trying to get it to do favors for them, that type of thing. So there seems to be all kinds of activity of different occult backgrounds going on here.
If it was warm, then that means more than likely she probably just missed a ritual.
That's witchcraft.
So they're doing it.
That's
out there.
definitely witchcraft. So we're not making stuff up.
No. So Satanism out here is pretty hefty. So that would explain why the thing's probably been around for 287, 88 years.
Yeah.
What kind of animal can survive that long without it being paranormal?
I did not expect.
And as you hear, he said it right there. They firmly believe that this thing is not, just we're looking for this hybrid beast that's been living for 200 years. This is something else going on, and part of their testimony will help unravel and give a clue that I'll try to stitch together for you guys. And we'll probably be doing a bigger video on this later. But I thought, since I'm on this episode, let's get it out the way.
And I mean, there's no right or wrong answers to this. That's another thing. A lot of people give a lot of speculation. Well, some people say that it was a big creature. Some people said it was a small animal. But all in one, we're talking about a paranormal manifestation at the end of the day. We're talking about one of the most elusive cryptids in America.
That's the reason why. That's the reason why I think it has never been captured, because people are chasing a ghost.
Yeah.
If this creature was living for 280 something years, from 1735 to 2023, what is it eating? What is it? How is it staying alive? It doesn't make sense.
There you have it once again. It doesn't make sense, but it's gonna start to.
this is an extinct species. A species of what? The Jersey Devil is described wings of a bat, head of a goat, horse feet.
Yeah.
That's not a typical animal. That's definitely some sort of demonic thing.
And people are seeing something.
Yeah.
People are seeing something.
And they're not lying, man. I mean, you got people terrified of this legend. We just happen to have an experience where we kind of looked at it as, hey, this is a ghost. This isn't an animal. This isn't something tangible. We're going to go walk up and grab it in a net and say, hey, we got the devil for sale. Ain't going to happen. This is totally something demonic.
I think that's interesting because every time I've heard of the Jersey Devil, I always consider it like a Bigfoot type cryptid.
That's the general consensus right there. That's usually, you know, up through the years, you know, and I know many of you have heard of the Jersey Devil for many, many years now. This isn't anything new to any of the younger folk listening. It's been around for a long time. A lot of different television channels and stuff have done episodes on it, you know, like your History Channel, monster shows and stuff. It's pretty wild.
Yes.
You know, like a monster.
Right.
But your theory makes a lot more sense that it's like a demonic, evil specter.
It has to
you know?
be.
It has
Because,
to
yeah, it can't survive for 200 years.
Now let's go on here. And I think we're going to get into, if I can organize my clips here. We didn't get too much into their first sighting. Their first sighting of the Jersey Devil was in broad daylight. And where it was standing, they said that there was no, it was a marsh out there. There was nowhere to be. There was, you know, it would have been sinking or drowning or something in the, you know, and they had a couple of paranormal incidents that happened as they were viewing this thing. Again, watch the full episode to get the whole thing. We're going to go to their second sighting here, though, is very, very, very interesting and gives a clue to this theory that you will see. I'm going to unfold. This is crazy.
We should tell them about the story that night when we came out in the evening.
And we were under attack.
The attack
on Oyster
that we
Creek
had.
Road. All right, I'm getting chills thinking about that. It was December. It was bad. It was December of 2018, I want to say, if I'm right. And
Yes.
we came down here, and it was chilly, so we brought some jackets. We were cold, but when we got down here in December, it was like summertime. Complete heat, hot, no breeze, no wind, no sound. Couldn't hear anything, kind of like now, other than birds.
I have to stop there because there is coming up, and I think I chose to forego this particular section just for time's sake later on. But later on, when Colin investigates and they go out there, Colin and Connor, when they go out there, it's nighttime, and I believe it's supposed to be summertime at this time. It was freezing cold. And they had not brought jackets or anything, but they commented on how unbelievably cold, and you could see their breath in the air, that it was crazy cold. And I found that interesting. There was a tie-in here with them saying it was the opposite. It was supposed to be cold and it was hot, and it was like, it's just something to point out here.
I thought I was seeing something standing out in the marsh, and I tried to point it out to my dad, like, hey, do you see that? But my eyes immediately watered, and I knew it wasn't a allergen thing because it was December, and it was immediate, and it was so like overbearing. Like I was rubbing my eyes like I was crying. Yeah. And he was alleging, as I'm calling him, he said, this is the part that scared me. He said, Steph, I can't hear you. When he said I can't hear you, it was like, are we under attack of something?
It was crazy because I wasn't too far from him. I was about, 10 feet, maybe 12, 13 feet.
Now, this is the beginning of something going on that's starting to expose and this happens in a lot of different cases. I'm going to try here. This is why I highly recommend you subscribe here if you're interested in figuring some of this stuff out, because I'm going to try to bring together a lot of the stuff that has happened with several different investigations over several different teams over different periods of time that seem to correlate and come together. I'm going to try to pull them together so we can review them, all at once, because there's a lot of stuff that's lining up. This phenomenon here, it's an auditory version of what they're about to say next, and you'll see what I mean. I've had experience with, so in my situation, which I'll get into more and more as we go along here, that happened back in 2011 or so. I had a situation where I was recording hours and hours, and I mean hours a night of the wildest stuff that nobody would, you're not even going to believe it. I'm going to play some of it. Some of it came up missing, but I still do have a lot of it, and I will be making videos on it. Nobody would believe that went on consistently for about 6 hours a night, in the middle of the night straight. And one of the things that tripped me out, and this was in the house I grew up in. I know this house front, back, left, right, upside down. I know this house. One of the things that tripped me out is some of the noises were phantom noises. They were not things that were actually happening. Now, some of the things that were happening, you could tell they were happening because like I heard the salt and pepper shaker in the kitchen slide across the table. Okay, now you remember I grew up in this house I'm talking about. I know what those salt and pepper shakers sound like, and I happen to be an audio engineer. I know what these things sound when I'm hearing stuff in that environment, in that house, on a recorder. I know what that is. I know where that is. I know what you could hear that clearly. And in the morning, they would be moved. They would be moved. So you could say, okay, they did slide across this table, right? Now, there were other sounds that were so loud and so out of pocket that it would have woke up the few people that were in the house at the time. It would have woke them up. Police would have been called. Things would have been in full chaos. I'm talking about like huge tin bowls coming out the cabinet and hitting the ground. Just loud noise. And clearly something, the cabinet door opened, something flew out and hit the ground like a cookie sheet or something. Fall over the ground. And I'm going, what in, right? Like what? How? It never happened though. That's the crazy part. In real life, there was nothing on the ground. If it did, it somehow put it back in the cabinet. But on my review, I never heard of any, I didn't hear that stuff getting put back into place. It just fell out of place and made a lot of noise. So there were several noises, big ones, that they had all the audio signature, all the reverb, the early reflection, everything that lined up with it being in the space that this was happening, whether it was the kitchen or the bedroom or the bathroom or wherever it was. It had, like, it was happening in an alternate reality. So there were some things happening in this real realm that we live in, and then there were some things that were they were totally phantom. So this kind of ties in, like there's some weird stuff going on where these entities can make one person hear a bunch of stuff and another person standing right next to them not hear it, and vice versa. And we're going to see here in a minute, the same thing happens with eyesight as well. And we'll get into that.
He's saying, Dad, I can't see. And he's rubbing his eyes. And I'm standing, like I said, 10, 15, maybe 10, 13, 15 feet away. And I'm like, Steph, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And that's when he pointed down the street and he said, Dad, there it is. And then you can tell him what you actually saw, and then I'll tell him what I actually saw.
Okay. Well, what it was like, I thought that it was a deer coming out of the brush back on Oyster Creek Road, but just as quick as I could see the face of this thing, it quickly pulled its face back into the weeds and it started walking towards us. And what's giving me the jeeves right now is where it was walking, there was no ground. That's actually a dredge dugout off the side of the road. And we didn't know that until after the fact. And I thought it was some type of large deer coming through the woods towards me, but...
Okay, we have to pause this for, YouTube with the whole copyright thing, so we have to stop it every now and then. Which, fair use, by the way. Wait till you hear what the father says about what he saw at the same time. And I have another experience I'll share here in a minute that correlates.
But in my mind, I'm saying, well, deers don't walk to you typically. Wouldn't they run? And this thing looked like it had its eye on me, man. So it seemed more predatory as opposed to something that was coming up for a pet.
Yeah.
And what I saw was different. This is how powerful the energy is in this area. What he saw, I didn't see, and what I saw, he didn't see.
What I just said about the audio.
What I saw was something that was pitch black, and it was, I only seen it from like mid-chest to mid-head, and it almost looked like it had calf ears that stuck out to the side, that went out. And it was solid black, pitch black. And I'm looking, and the branches are moving like so, because it was like a little breeze going. And the next thing you know, when the branch went up, it took his head and moved his head in front of the branch, and that's when I was like, let's get out of here.
Now this right here, I don't know if they know how significant of a story they just told here, because this is there's several things going on here that need to be discussed. So same situation back in 2011 with the house I grew up in. So I'm outside one night after a major incident had happened the day before. Excuse me. And I'm outside with a couple of relatives, and we're standing near the house on one end of the house on the sidewalk. One family member is in the kind of standing in the street facing the house. I'm kind of, my whole field of view is, from peripheral vision is the house all the way over to in the street. I'm kind of cat-a-corner in between the two. And then the other family member is on the sidewalk facing the street where the other family member is at. So I'm talking, I'm saying something, and this is at nighttime, okay? And I catch out of the corner of my eye, which is, you'll hear this a lot when people see this. I catch out of the corner of my eye a huge black shadow figure, humanoid shadow figure, just step. It looked in my vision, it looked like it walked from down the driveway. We have a long driveway there, and there's a white fence bordering the property line to the next house. There's a white fence that is at least about 6 feet tall, maybe 7 feet tall. And I saw that fence block out. And it's a white fence. This is at night. I perfectly saw the silhouette walk. And there's a staircase there on one side of the driveway, then the fence on the other side of the driveway. So you could see it walk out from behind the staircase, and it was standing there just staring at us. And this is all happening very quick, because these sightings, they're usually very, very fast. So I catch it as I'm talking mid-sentence, and I say, I just stopped what I said, and I said, what the? And I turned my head as fast as I could, looked dead at it, straight on. Looked straight on at it, and within, I mean, the shortest period of time, it moved so fast, I didn't know whether it went to the right or to the left. I became confused, kind of disoriented right afterwards, trying to remember which direction I saw it go. But it darted off extremely quick, and I immediately started going over towards the driveway. And I went out in the middle of the street. I didn't even want to get too close to the house where it was standing. And I looked down the driveway, and then I looked across the street, because I'm like, where did it go, that way or that? And I'm going, no way I just saw that. This is unbelievable. I go walk back over, and the one family member standing in front of the house with her back to the house that didn't see this was going, what? So the other family member that's in the street that's facing the house, I said, did you see that? And I said, I made sure, I'm not going to influence with you. I said, what did you saw? I'm not going to know. What did you see? Tell me what you saw first. They said they saw a huge black shadowy figure come out. Now from their eyesight, and they're facing the house, they said it came out the front door and came down the steps. And in my eye, remember, it was in my peripheral. I thought it came out from behind the steps in the driveway. And that's where it looked like it was standing when I turned and looked at it, not on the steps, but behind the steps, standing in the driveway, right up to the steps. So they said they saw it come down the steps, and it had a black hat on. Now, this particular person doesn't know about the Hat Man phenomenon that's been going on. We know about shadow people. For those you don't know, look it up, because it is widely reported all over the place, and they're going to be a key thing in us breaking this down as these shadow people and these hat men. This person saw it had a brim hat on. That's what it looked like. Even though these are smoky black silhouettes for people that haven't seen these. And what he said here, the father, when he said it was pitch black, I can tell you, and many other people will tell you, there's actually a couple of clips I should have included from other investigations of other teams. The people that have seen it will tell you it's so black, it's so dark, that you can see it in a totally pitch black room. If you're in total darkness, it's so black you can see it in the room. That's how dark. It's like they are black holes. There's no light. There's absolutely no light within them, which is a more philosophical thing we won't get into. But that tripped me out, because obviously I'm standing there. I saw what I saw, right? And I queried the other family member, what did you see? And there was no talk about no shadow people or nothing. That, what did you see? I'm not even going to influence. I'm not going to go through life thinking I influenced this other family member to say something else. I said nothing about a shadow person or nothing like that. What did you see? And the fact that they saw a large, tall, black, dark, super dark shadow being at all in that region, in the area. But the difference to them, it looked like it came out the house, and it had a black brim hat. The one I saw looked like a regular shadow person without the hat. Okay, so this rings home for me what these guys are saying right here. That one saw one thing and the other one saw another. So I have to go back. Let's listen to that again.
To you, typically, wouldn't they run? And this thing looked like it had its eye on me, man. So it.
Let me go forward a little bit here. This is
Oh, it was different. This is how powerful the energy is in this area. What he saw, I didn't see, and what I saw, he didn't see. What I saw was something that was pitch black.
Pitch black.
And it was, I only seen it from like mid chest to mid head, and it almost looked like it had calf ears that stuck out to the side that went out, and it was solid black. pitch black. And I'm looking, and the branches are moving like so, because it was like a little breeze going. And the next thing you know, when the branch went up, it took his head and moved his head in front of the branch. And that's when I was like, let's get out of here. Let's go.
Yeah, we left. We left.
We left.
We left.
It was crazy because, like we said, it was in December. We said we better bring jackets because it might be cool.
Again, that is hopefully those of you watching can attest to the eeriness between the similarity between my story and their story. It's it's not the same form it was taking, because I believe, and we will see here, they can take all kind of different forms. And apparently in that scenario, it was in the process of trying to appear as the Jersey Devil or something similar, and it was trying to take that form on. Now, we don't know the science about how this is, and there is science to this, by the way. This isn't just hocus pocus. There is a definite scientific part of that we don't understand to these beings. They do operate, I believe, in the realm of the laws of physics, but it's just there's certain advanced things we don't understand. That's what I believe, is that it's the spiritual realm is more scientific than you think it is. Anyway, that's another discussion. But this somehow something was going on in the environment, or I don't know if it's by the person. There's some indications, we'll get into this later, that a person's blood type may have some influence on how they see or perceive these entities when they do certain things. One person may see it, some kind of different way, or half cloaked, or, it doesn't totally work on this one person, but it works on the other person. And it's wild. We're going to try to figure it out. But clearly here, the son saw, if it was just him by himself, he'd have just said, I saw the Jersey Devil. I saw it was brown, it had the thing, and I saw the. But the father's there. It's something different is going on with his perception of it, and he sees the black part, the shadow, dark, super dark black portion. The color doesn't come through in the other details as he's seeing it. So this is very interesting.
We out here in the marsh, it might be windy, but when the attack started, it heated up. It got real warm. It was crazy, man. When I saw what I saw and then moved his head around that branch, I said, let's go. And we jumped in the car. I hit the lights, and just for a millisecond, I saw what looked like to appear to be like cat eyes. When you hit like the eyes, they reflective, like a second, and they were gone.
Okay. And that last thing about the cat eyes, you'll hear in a lot of cases. So when we get into talking about the Bigfoot situations, especially the Dogman situation, we're hearing a lot of Dogman stuff now. Always with the either glowing red or yellow eyes. Sometimes that's all people see is the eyes. Sometimes, so I had to mention that as well. As you know by now, the theory is that these things can take the shape and the form, and it does depend on what's going on. Like if there's a story, a legend of a house, of an area or something, they will take the form. They will play the part for you. They will play that part. They will try their best to play that part. Okay. And so if it's Dogman, they'll be Dogman. If it's Bigfoot, they'll be Bigfoot. If it's the little girl that died in 1912 because she was treated badly, and they'll be whoever you'll believe. So anyway, let's move on, because so you heard what they said there clearly. I'm going to move on to another channel here for a second to coincide and kind of bring together these different experiences. So this is the YouTube channel What Lurks Beneath, and this is Matt Enrich's story about the Dog Man, and this is the one at the Ohio steel mill back in 1987. So definitely, and I'm gonna link this in the description. You have to go see this this whole story. Hear him tell this story. Sounds very credible. And there's a lot of these stories coming out now, and there's certain things that, and here's the clip I'm going to play for you, that he's going to say something that I would not expect for a cryptid type of situation. If somebody was making the story up, they're going to tell this story, they're going to try to make some money off of it, they're going to, you know, whatever. This kind of thing I wouldn't expect to hear them saying, because, you know, for up until now, they've always been thought of just like Bigfoot is a creature that's out in the wilderness that people don't know of. It escaped from some government island somewhere. They were doing experiment. It's never really you don't expect them to take a paranormal turn. But listen to this on part of his. This is towards the end of his story here.
My friend and I were screaming, "Someone help us!" And it looked back at us, and it looked back again, and it turned around and started running down. And it took literally, I would say, 1 to 1.5 seconds to get from where it stood 6 to 7 feet from me at the 3/4 mark of that second to third floor step area to the steps of the going from the second to the first. And then something else supernatural happened where you stopped seeing movement of joints and the tail, and it just was a black streak that left the building. And it wasn't just from how fast it was. It had basically gone from physical creature to almost shadow. And it just was just a black mass had just left the building, and it was gone. And I'll always remember that. And as through the years, the things I've been learning, hearing about shadow people and people, you know, very similar things that I saw and we saw when it did that.
Now that is, you know, even with his admission there that he's been hearing about shadow people later on in the years, to tie them together to Dogman, you know, when it's kind of unnecessary. If you're just going to tell, just as a skeptic looking at it, if a skeptic's looking at, if you're going to tell a Dogman story, you can just tell a Dogman story. Why at the very end do you need to make it into this shadow person thing? Even if you were going to make it paranormal, for most people, if they were making this stuff up and they don't believe it, I mean, to bring that into it, they could just say, oh, a mystical thing happened and it disappeared. And to bring that description in, I don't know. You know, if this guy's telling the truth, he absolutely could be. He absolutely might not, you know. But if he's telling the truth, this is wild. And I will say there is a bit of a red flag here, because I've heard him tell this story before, or I don't know if it was before or after. I've heard him tell the story on another platform, and he did not mention that what you just heard, that it turned into a black streak when it left the building, and it for all intents and purposes turned into a large shadow figure that left the building. That's basically what he just said here. He did not say that in other tellings of this story. And yeah, that could be because he added to it. He's trying to sensationalize it and make it better. Or, you know, maybe he was hesitant to say that it would sound more unbelievable at the time, and he didn't want to reveal that. You know, we'll probably never know, but I had to go ahead and put that in here because it's very interesting. And I have to give, I think it's Dominic, the owner of What Lurks Beneath, his channel. He goes into it more here with Matt. I didn't even realize the first time I watched it how much they kind of went into this subject, and that's why I said this is starting to come out a little more. now and starting to be discussed.
To the right, so when it was closest to the wall, he said, I noticed more than ever its tail bent and turned to the left, almost like a rudder, helping it, stay even keel on the stairs and go up better. So it was just little things like that. We all saw basically the same stuff, just tiny little snippets each one of us saw from a little different angle that made the experience more detailed for all of us.
And I put that clip there because I actually meant to put another clip in that I didn't get to, but the different people seeing the different things. Now he's saying it more like, well, it's the angle, but he also talked about in the other clip that when it came in the building, they were in this steel mill in this building, and they were up on like the third floor of it. They had run up to the third floor of it, and this dog man appeared out in the yard and came into the building. That's the crux of the story. So, and they're terrified. They think they're gonna die, and here comes this massive dog man up into the building, and they said there was a fire burning that they had up there, and when it walked past the fire, he said that a couple of them saw that the paw, like as it stepped in front of the fire, disappeared and looked like mystical, like like it was translucent. Something about the light of the fire, decloaked it or cloaked it or something. So it that's an interesting, these little key facts you have to take note of. But he said that and certain other things the other members, his friends there, didn't see. They all didn't see the same thing. There was something off. One of them said it had a white streak back down his back. The other one didn't see that and said no, it was all black. The other one said, yeah, there was a slight white streak down his back. There was a differing in certain details that they should have all seen pretty straightforward, straight on. And that kind of alludes back to what you just heard. My story, the story there from the Jersey Devil, that people can be standing there witnessing the same, having the same paranormal experience, but when you asked everybody, it's something a little different. They saw something a little different. Anyway, let's go on.
One of the things that comes to my mind is the Hexham head case, and I don't know how familiar you are with that. Long story short, back in the 1970s, a family, I don't remember their names, they found these two small, I don't know what they were made of, these actual like carved out heads. One was what they would call the hag, which kind of resembled a witch's face. The other one resembled a boy. I mean, they're crudely carved stones, so those terms should be used ambiguously. But anyway, long story short, the effects from those stones.
And just keep in mind, you do, in a lot of these cases, have some kind of background of some type of witchcraft or sorcery or some occult practice. A lot of the times is surrounding these events, whether they have been cast upon people in these hauntings residentially, or now there's a very controversial thing I'm going to get into about some of these locations that are being bought up and rented out for people to go investigate, and these teams to go investigate. I think there's a lot of occult activity happening around those properties with some of those owners, but we'll get into that later.
Apparently, multiple people had encountered this like shadowy werewolf thing coming in their house, and it just, as soon as you mentioned turning to that form, I'm like, there's more than one story of like people talking about this werewolf apparition. And I want to take this and ask you, at the time that this happened, what we're talking like 1988, 89, right?
87, I would say.
Yeah, 87. Okay. Yeah. At that point, we all know movies, man. You're at the pinnacle of the golden era of werewolf movies. You had American Werewolf in London, not even 10, 15 years prior.
Howling.
Yeah, the Silver Bullet. I mean,
great movie.
Great movies. So when...
And I will have to piggyback on that. those of you that are of a certain age, that are old enough, that were here in the 80s, it was high werewolf time. Werewolf time was, the 80s was werewolf time. Okay. I don't think, did he just mention teenage werewolf? There was, it's a part of the 80s culture for sure, is werewolf movies. Okay. Werewolf movies. So, and if you remember Michael Jackson, Thriller, there is a I don't know what you call it, to the music video. There's like a little movie that he shot. You don't see it a lot anymore. Somebody could find it or comment below if you know what I'm talking about. It may have come from some other part of Thriller, but there was a little mini movie Michael Jackson shot, and it is where he's taking a girl out on a date. Remember, that's 1982, 83. He's taking a girl out on a date to the movies, and after the movies, they go home, they're walking down some dark path, and a full moon comes out, and oh no, Michael Jackson turns into a werewolf. And they had full prosthetics and everything. He turns into a full werewolf and all of this was part of the Thriller thing. It was a huge thing in the 80s. So what he's getting at here, what he's about to get at is that, and this incident happened in 1987, is that was something people were very consciously afraid of and knew about, and that these things may have been, feeding upon that to take shapes as some of this stuff they know they're going to terrify people, and it's something big at the time that they could, people would identify what that is. Oh, that's a werewolf. Oh my God.
It came to that point. You saw that. Did you ever have anything like, oh my gosh, like we saw a werewolf? Like, what else would we say?
Yeah, no, it was right away in my mind. It was, holy shit, it's a werewolf. Yeah, it wasn't, what is it? First it was on all fours, and it was, what the hell is that? And then it stood up, and it was just bing, bing, bing. It's a werewolf. It's what's not supposed to be real. It's real. Yeah, 100%. That's what I thought. I knew what it was. And that's what I called it for years, was a werewolf. Dogman is a newer term.
Yeah.
He makes a good point there. Dogman is a much newer term. They're at least it's much more popular right now. There is some other terms for these things. They have been reported all through history, very similar creatures, and they have different names and different attributes. But yeah, the Dogman one was not like, if you're alive back in the 80s or the 90s or even the 70s, you didn't really hear Dogman. You for sure would hear werewolf. But we definitely knew werewolf as, a man, and they kind of talked about this later, a man that turned into this thing. There was no paranormal, like, I should say spiritual, type of thing where it was a ghostly thing, a entity, a demon that is shape-shifting into these things.
And I 100% don't believe that there's people. It's possible. I think anything's possible, Josh. I think these things are what they are all the time. I don't think they turn into men. Yeah, I don't get any sense of that.
And that's again what he's, what I'm saying here. What he don't think that they're men that turn into werewolves and then back into men, like in the old werewolf story.
So okay, so I will say this. I slightly disagree, and here let me make the distinction.
Okay.
So, and from what I've seen and what I've studied, you have what basically what you saw, right? We're talking about I guess I'm just going to call it a demonic entity of some, because that's what I firmly believe they are and where they're rooted from. And so these things is just like what you saw, right? They can come in and out of our density. They could take whatever form they want. And it seems that when they manifest in our plane of existence, they take on those attributes, right? This kind of goes back and forth because there's some stories that support it. There's some stories that go against it. But if they get shot, they bleed. I've heard other stories where bullets don't even affect them or go through them. Mm-hmm. So I almost wonder if there's some sort of like law.
And I have to pause here. But yeah, and like I said, the first time I saw this, I didn't realize he had got that deep into it. So it may be Dominic here and one other person that is doing some interviews that I need to do a video on that's coming closest to this conclusion. I'm not gonna lie, I thought I might be the only person with that theory, but that they've blown that out. They've taken all of that thunder out from underneath out from underneath me, because I've been blown away by hearing their stories. They're so close to what, the conclusions that I've come to with all of the investigation over the years since my 2011 situation. These, and a lot of people are going to be, kind of upset about this. And this is a big thing in the paranormal field, even though it's getting discussed and it's being a little bit more open-minded. There are a lot of people that are dogmatically locked to, no, this is, these spirits are this is somebody's grandmother, this is that. And it's going to be difficult for a lot of people. It's going to be very difficult because, as far as I go with it, I'll just let you know right now, all the evidence is pointing, and I'm going to show you in all these different investigations, the similarities, the things that they're not comparing notes and seeing how similar, the interactions are, the how the entities are acting, what they're saying. I believe these are all the same beings. These are all the same beings, and it just depends on where they are, what's going on, their status, their rank, their power. It all depends on all of that as to what you see when you interact with them, or what you hear, what kind of story they try to tell or pretend of who they are or what they're doing. There's a lot of evidence to point to that direction. I don't want to disenfranchise anybody or throw anybody off. Hopefully you keep an open mind and roll on with me here, and we can try to figure some of this stuff up. I still keep an open mind. Feel free to comment below your thoughts. We're going to try to get through this and figure out what's going on.
That they have to abide by a law we wouldn't understand, that where if they're in this realm long enough, they acquire more of those physical attributes. They have to eat, they have to sleep, right? They're in a physical body, but at the same time, it seems now cloaking is separate, but it seems that they can travel back and forth the same way that people talk about Bigfoot's doing, where they can go through. It makes me, I don't know if you ever play video games, but it brings me back to the game Portal, where you can kind of hop back and that's what makes me think, at their own whim. And then
you hear about Skinwalker Ranch. I hate to interrupt you. You hear about
go ahead. No.
They've seen dogmen coming out of and other beings coming out of portals at Skinwalker Ranch as well.
That's very true. Skinwalker. They've seen dogman, Bigfoot, aliens, UFOs, all of that stuff. And I hate to say it and release it so early, but a lot of that stuff it seems to be, and I think I'll be proven right over time, it's starting to look like it's all these beings. It's mainly this, I think the base form of it, at least how we can see it, is that shadow person, whether it has the hat on or it's just the straight silhouette that's just a straight, head, shoulders. That thing right there seems to be the base form, and from that it either it turns into this stuff or it's affecting us to think we're seeing it. It's hard to tell what it, how is it doing it? Is it using our own human senses, our own body to make it appear like it's there, and make it appear like we hear it, we see it, and really it's not, really that's not what it looks like in reality. There's the reason why different people see different things at the same time. It's hard to say, but then it leaves physical evidence behind. It can leave claw marks. It can leave hair. It can, it's really trippy.
I also heard a story. I forget whose it was. I'll remember it and tell you whose it was, but I heard it was, I don't know if it was Dixie Cryptid or somebody else, about a girl that had an experience at summer camp. It was near Bray Road in Michigan. She saw a dog man, and then one night she went into the area that she had seen it, And she said when she went to the area, she saw a ball of light that was, roughly the size of a basketball that was shining real bright in the exact same spot. And she started to follow it. It was going away. She stepped on a branch and it stopped and turned around and looked at her. Now, is that its normal shape? Is that its normal being, and that it just takes form of something to scare the shit out of anybody that sees it? I don't know, but it definitely makes me think that they can change form.
And that, the ball of light is another form that it is typically seen outside in the woods. And again, the woods, for those of you that have seen my other video of Sam and Kobe, where, the thing that Cody and Satori, Sam and Kobe, where Cody and Satori are doing the tapping thing, and it's talking about the woods. I said, you're going to hear about this a lot. There is something about the woods, quote unquote. There is definitely something about the woods. I will be getting into that and bring that out. You will constantly hear reference and see reference to the woods. Constantly out in the woods, out in the forest, out in the groves. There's energies and things going on out there. And we will be discussing that. Very, very interesting stuff. The balls of light usually are seen out in those type of areas at night versus the shadow people and stuff, which you might see indoors or near residents, near buildings. Another strange form that they take. And he's right. Is that their base form? And the shadow person is a different, who knows?
So, again, so I feel like that we would be talking about the supernatural entity kind. I guess I wouldn't call it the kind. It is what it is. And then the other thing I was going to say was, it seems, and I've heard other stories about, like other stories similar to this, is where there's certain people, black magic practitioners, that are able to completely give themselves, like sell their soul and everything in exchange for spiritual power,
like skinwalkers.
Exactly. That they can shapeshift to a whim. There was a story, like skinwalkers is a great example.
I believe in a skinwalker
culture, right? Yeah. There was a story, and I don't want to say that it was someone who had literally shapeshifted, but it definitely sounds similar to yours. That this is probably the first instance of a dogman I ever heard. My mom, I'm gonna backtrack here. My mom is really into Paranormal Witness and what do you call it? It was Alone in the Woods, whatever the show was. I know the show.
Haunted.
I have to pause, of course. This thing about the people, and this is another one. Again, I'm open-minded. The comment below if you got some theory on this. The thing about there is a history about sorcerers and wizards having spells and incantations that can turn, either let them turn into this or do something like astral projection, possibly, where they can project their spirit out and maybe do ghostly things in this astral projected spiritual form. I don't know if I totally buy that they have the ability for that. It's I kind of think we're stuck with what we're stuck with as human beings, to a degree, and in this, well, I don't know if I want to go to where I'm about to go, but let's just say I think a lot of those guys are greatly deceived and in the end figure out that they never really had any control over those beings, and with doing those spells and doing those rituals, that these beings are the ones in control. They're if you do the rituals, they'll show up. They'll pretend to do your bidding. They'll pretend to give you things and do this and do that. But it's them deciding to do it. It's not really you doing the thing that is causing or compelling them or making them or forcing them to do anything. But they will play the part for you. And then in the end, in the end, they'll come rip you to pieces, basically, whether that's spiritually or otherwise.
Haunted. These haunted woods. Yeah. These woods are haunted. Yeah.
These haunted woods. Yeah.
She big into Bigfoot. She was the reason why she kind of started the cryptid bug. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all because of her. Although I kind of found out about Dogman and all the other stuff. But yeah, she was always like, "Oh, have you heard this encounter? Oh, have you heard this?" And so I remember being a teenager, and she told me about this one story in particular of this woman. I don't know. It sounded like she was on the East Coast somewhere. I want to say it's like Maine, where it's like wooded. You know, we're talking like closer to Pennsylvania, up in that area where it's just like you're in it. And she was driving in the evening time, and she said her car suddenly died, like all the power just shut off. And she said within a few seconds, this is my mom reiterating the story, that the lady saw this what she would describe as this werewolf being come out onto the road.
I have to pause it here, but yeah, this is an important story. We're gonna I'll just let it play.
Look at her through the car, and my mom told me that the lady explained the same thing, that this thing spoke telepathically to her, and it told her, "I'm going to come rip your throat out." And she starts bawling, she's crying, she's praying to God Almighty, and it walks up to her car door, and as it begins to reach for her car handle, it stops, and it says something else to her telepathically, like, "Oh, I didn't know you were the one, or you were something along those lines, like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a believer," or something. I can't remember. But as long as those lines,
that's
her alone. Well, she was a Christian, and she was praying. She was using Jesus' name. She was praying and praying and praying. And so I know a lot of people can just take them like, yeah, well. But I'm like, listen, I hear that, but at the same time, it's just another domino in the pile of dominoes, man. Like,
and I have to agree. You're gonna hear this a lot. You're gonna hear this a lot for those of you that can take it. This is gonna get way more terrifying than ghost stories and EVPs and fun ghost hunts and that. If you're really gonna dive into this is a lot of people. This is gonna terrify you to the point of I don't know. I'm kind of at a catch-22 with even bringing this out, because or helping to bring this out and show the evidence and show the correlation, because it's going to bring some realization to a lot of people that a lot of things that a lot of people don't want to think about. They don't want to ponder or question, or and I'm not here to try to change your view of the world, a view of life, or the afterlife and stuff like that. I'm just exploring, what the evidence points towards and what we can see. He just said there, and we hear this a lot, that the woman, she calls out to a particular faith, and poof, gone. Or it backs off. We hear this in alien abduction. We hear this over and over. The shadow people attacking people, where they can't breathe. They're wide awake, but they can't breathe. They can't scream, but in their mind they say a certain, thing of their faith, and guess what? They're gone. And that you just have to take that into account. There's too many. And as he says, it's just a domino in the pile of, it's too many stories about that.
It's like, oh my gosh, how many do you got to hear?
It just makes you think about what you had said. If it is a demonic entity, and then it realizes that you are a quote unquote believer in God or something, that there are some kind of rules that it's not allowed to touch people that believe in God, or that start spouting prayer or something like that. And then maybe it is demonic.
Yeah. We'll leave off of that, but we will certainly turn back at a later date on some of that stuff. So let's see here. Let's go to the next clip and see what we got. And this, getting back to the Jersey Devil, I know we've been sidetracked for a while.
And this place right here,
haunted.
It's haunted. There's definitely something in Lee's Point. And You know, I know this is what they call a wildlife refuge, but I think there's life that went on, that passed on, and some of that life energy is still in this area. That's what my take on this thing is.
I couldn't agree more. How could you explain something like this lasting almost 300 years and remain elusive this entire time? It doesn't add up to be an animal. This is clearly some sort of demon.
It's some demon, paranormal, spirit. I mean, the energy here is here. I mean, anyone who can come here at night and brave this, my hat's off to you.
I agree. Excuse me, but yeah. And you know what? To what he just said about anyone who can come here and brave this at night, I'll mention this too, because again, it's something that's going to come up later on. I think in a lot of cases, paranormal teams that go out into these places or go to these buildings, any of these cases where they're investigating, having the camera and the recorders and the equipment, there's a certain level, excuse me, there is a certain level of, these entities aren't stupid. They know what you're doing. They know you're filming. They know that you're trying to put it out to the public. They know that the masses could get a hold of it, and they try to be very measured in what they allow you to get away with, what evidence they allow you to get away with. There seems to be some type of universal rule that they're not allowed to just, give rock hard proof like, hey, come walk up to the camera right now in ghost form and stand here and talk to me. They're never going to do that. They can't do that. They're not allowed to do that. But some of them seem to push the envelope. They really, really, push the envelope, really push it. And I think, going to what he said, I think if a lot of these teams went out into the woods with no cameras, oh man, it might get real crazy if they went to these locations with no cameras and did not announce that they're recording. I think that the worst thing the worst thing they could do is to have nothing on them, no recorders, no equipment, and no cameras. If you go into one of these locations with nothing, you're going to see and hear and experience stuff that's going to send you to the nut house. They are going to go crazy on you because they know you don't have any way to prove it. You have no way to prove it and alert the masses that what you're talking about is actually happening. So, and I have some evidence of that in my case where I told you all the stuff was happening at night. I specifically made sure they didn't know. Back then, already way back then, I had this theory in mind at the time, is that you go into a place and talking about this is a recorder and you can talk into this and do that. My thing is to be covert with it. Just turn it on, set it down behind something somewhere. Don't say a word about it. And my suspicions proved correct because the stuff that was going on, I don't believe half the stuff would have happened if it had been announced it was being recorded. It was moving around that place. I mean, it sounds like a person. It literally sounds like a person just going room to room, moving stuff, messing with stuff, doing this, opening the drawer, doing crazy activity. And at one point, actually a few points, this happened a couple times. It picked up the recorder or handled the recorder. Like this microphone right now, I'm going to try to simulate. Let's see. That noise touching a microphone, that's what was going on. The recorder was being touched. It was looking at the recorder or handling the recorder, trying to figure out, I guess, what is this? What the hell is this? What is this thing? And it was fumbling with the recorder. And again, being an audio engineer, hearing that, I immediately know something's touching the microphone. Handling it. this is the kind of stuff we don't get, because all of the teams go in and announce their presence. They announce, I'm recording. This device does this. If you step over here, they tell the entities exactly what is going on, what the device does, and that they're recording. I think if, and who knows, maybe I'll get off into this later on myself, you know, if I take up doing investigations on scene, going covert is something I think that can produce some serious results when all these entities are not all knowing. They don't exactly all the time know what a recorder is, know what a hidden camera is, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, let's continue.
You guys feel that whatever is out in the woods out here in Leeds Point?
Oh, I'm sorry too. I meant to mention in that incident in 2011, I did put a camera in the house, in one of the main locations that I got the recordings, and I had both the recorder and the camera in there. It knew what the camera was. It knew flat out what the camera was. That night, it was almost completely silent. There was a couple of taps through the night in distant areas of the house, and in one case it moved the camera slightly. Like when it was first set up, the camera didn't fall, or you could tell somebody actually took it and moved it real quick. I've seen that happen in other investigations too. It real quickly just moved like a half a millimeter, and nothing else from then on. They stayed away from that thing. They shut up. There was no more talking, moving stuff. Silence, other than a couple of taps. So anyway,
Is definitely like a predatory evil energy.
I think there's good spirits here that want vindication.
Yes.
They want their truth to be told, but then there are not so good spirits, evil spirits, demons possibly, that just take heed of this property right here. I mean, this runs from...
And they could just be all the dark spirits just playing games. Anyway, let's get into this. We're getting close now, finally, to a few audio breakdowns that we're going to do here.
Hunt for the Jersey Devil. We knew that we had to bring this search to the place that the Jersey Devil haunts. This is a section of the Pine Barrens, Atlantic City, the infamous mobster. I don't know what you'd call that, but the mob...
Now, I wanted to play that clip because I didn't really catch anything there. Maybe I missed it. I didn't really catch... I mean, I'm sure they heard something in real time. And again, it could have been what we've talked about earlier, the phantom sounds, or the one person can hear something, the other person can, or maybe both the people there on scene could hear it, but it wasn't really happening in reality where the mic could pick it up. But I didn't really hear nothing in the background. There seems to be, unfortunately, with a lot of Colin's episodes, there's a lot of heavy sound effects and music going on. And some teams do this, unfortunately, where it's so heavy that if there was something there that I could have pulled out, I can't really get to it. And unfortunately, that's just a lost situation. So we'll move on.
Okay, guys, so it is almost 1 in the morning. Connor and I are here to do our second investigation in the Pine Barrens. We're on an undisclosed road deep in the forest. To get here, we had to drive down a lot of dirt roads. We're way back in the woods. There's no one anywhere near us. I mean, as you can see, it's completely silent out here. There's no wind tonight. And yeah, this is one of the areas where if someone were to come out to dump a body, or someone were to want to kill somebody, this would be kind of an ideal place to do it, because we're back. Birds at night. You know what that means?
There's something moving around.
Well, that, but in medieval folklore, hearing birds chirp at night is a sign of the devil.
Now, there you could hear some birds in the background, and through the whole episode you can. But again, with the music and sound effects and things, it's unfortunately, again, it's not really audible or distinguishable between the sound effects and the, I encourage any content creators that might be seeing my little tiny page here to put more dead space with the audio when certain things are happening, and hopefully we can pull it out. This is, now we're in the audio breakdown. Several things happened. I'm not going to go over the other forms of evidence that happened through the investigation. And with most of my content, I'm not trying to show the whole investigation and trying to clip everybody's, entire video on here. I'm just dealing with the audio and then some of these theories going on here. So here is there wasn't many instances, but I was able to pull something out on a couple of big things that happened. So during this investigation, they kept hearing stuff running around them, running through the brush and making noise. And I've taken one of these instances that was kind of the best one, and you can hear something. Now, they're out in the woods. Could it be a raccoon or something? Sure, but with everything else that was going on, and it seemed to kind of be intelligent as to what was happening. It's very interesting, but in the original clip, it's very hard to hear, and I went on ahead to enhance that. So let's watch the original.
Clark. You hurt someone named Clark?
I don't think we've ever gotten Clark before.
That's a very strange name. No offense to anybody who's named Clark.
What the fuck was that? Connor.
Okay, so that was the original. Let's go to the enhancement here. So this is the full speed enhancement.
No offense to anybody who's named Clark.
And as I mentioned in previous videos, what I try to do is any loud noises that the person filming is making, whether it's their voice or something else, if possible, I try to turn that part down, because with it being enhanced, it would be really, really, really loud in your ear if I let that part play. So, unfortunately, it's just a reaction. A lot of people will, vocally call out, yell out, say something, and I have to cut it down. So anyway, here it is. Let's say that one more time.
No offense to anybody who's named Clark.
Okay. And here is the slowed version.
No offense to anybody who's named Clark.
That one was pretty wild right there. And oops, I lost my place there. But actually, let me see. I want to play that again. That original.
Clark. You hurt someone named Clark?
I don't think we've ever gotten Clark before.
That's a very strange name. No offense to anybody who's named Clark.
So yeah, that was pretty freaky. Well, let's move on here to the next set of clips.
God damn it, dude.
Okay, I put this one in here because, again, you can hear what is sound effects, music overlaid, And so whatever loud movement they indicated there, you can't really hear it. And it's just another example that, you know, hopefully these content creators will leave those. Sometimes it's not the actual content creator, because, you know, they have third-party editors, and maybe a lot of time the third-party editors, they might not be believers in this stuff or whatever. They might not care, or they just might not be thinking about it, and they will just slap a lot of scary audio over the, you know, just slather it over the whole production, and not really leave room, not take the care to leave the room to take out some of these areas. Because when this stuff happens, it should be no overlays of any kind happening in that particular spot. But you know, it is what it is. So here we have another clip, and I think this is when the vocalizations start. So we got some pretty wild vocalizations that happened out here, and yeah, let's get to the first one.
Cool here. I mean, it's 3 a.m. I'm a little tired. Okay. Oh! Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, bro. F that. No, leave the equipment.
Okay, now you can hear something there, and you heard they turned the audio up. If you're listening very closely, they definitely tried to turn the audio up a little bit, but it looked like it was just a raise in volume, possibly. So we went on ahead and tried to pull it out a little bit more, and here's the enhanced clip. And unfortunately there, again, I had to turn down Colin screaming. He knows, I see from the episode, he knows, and even Connor had to tell him in this episode, like, dude, be quiet, because you're really loud. We're out here in a very dangerous place, and I've noticed this, that it kind of builds, it makes more suspense to the episodes though, so because you're kind of like, you know, you're invested, it's kind of like you're there with them. And then with Colin talking all loud and screaming and, you know, and saying stuff loudly in these dangerous areas where they're talking about the mob could roll up dumping bodies, and you know, anything could be going on out there. You know, you kind of want to be quiet. Your instinct is to be quieter, and also not to have a lot of light on, you know, pinpointing. So if some crazy murderer is out in the bush somewhere, you know, that even if they do hear you a couple times, it might be hard for them to pinpoint where you're at, you know, if you're keeping a low profile. So unfortunately, it is Colin's reaction in every case, his natural reaction to yell at the top of his lungs. So I had to cut it down. If he had been able to keep a little more quieter, we would have heard the full, like, we would have been able to play that out and really get a full dose of it. So hopefully, you know, you can hear enough of it here, but we're going to slow it down too. Let's hear that one more time. Yeah, that is nuts. Okay. Here's the slowed version. And I will play that again. Now, to the skeptics, sure, playing devil's advocate, I could say that, you could just say, hey, it's somebody they got with them that's out in the woods screaming and yelling, and that's all it is. That easily could be, what it is. It's just, somebody out in the woods screaming and yelling that, is in on it with them or whatever. It could be people they don't know about out in the woods screaming and yelling that heard them making noise and thought they'd scare them. Absolutely could be that. But again, watch the full episode. We have to take into account a lot of the other evidence that was happening at the same time. And I will say that I have seen some very credible cases that are very similar, where these vocalizations have happened, where it really was something screaming, like something paranormal screaming. It wasn't a person. It wasn't a, and some of this stuff happened within buildings. You might have seen episodes from different paranormal teams where it happened in a building, in a room, in a place where it could be seen that there was nobody there, and something that happens quite regularly, where they're screaming, yelling, very loud vocalizations that are pretty terrifying. But anyway, we're gonna go on to the next clip. Let's see what we have here. I think this is their reaction afterwards. They're terrified. They're just completely terrified right there. But as they run by, they're running back through the area that they had set up, because I think they got led down that path there by their other devices. And this shot here is them running back into the little clearing where they had kind of set up camp and running towards their car.
Leave the shit. Leave the shit. Yo, f that.
So as you see there on the screen, as that camera kept rolling, they picked up another scream, and that's the next one we're going to go to here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and enhance that and see if we can pull that out. I mean, that was pretty loud already, but you know how we do here at Phantom Freaks. We're going to get this pro audioed out here. And that was kind of difficult because you had that was the motion sensor music box playing, and you know, you had that noise to kind of consider. That was kind of loud. And then you also have the little sound effects that they put in for the replay. That replay effect is not mine. That's from the original episode. So I had to kind of work around that. But it's okay. We got through it here. And I think this is the slowed version here. Let's see. Yeah, that is when that's happening for real. Or you're terrified. Now, I will say I have seen. Matter of fact, I've seen on another episode of the Paranormal Files, a very old one, very old episode. Kind of around the time when he was just getting started. there was vocalizations happening at a particular location, and they were in, I think, a basement of a facility, and it had one of those long basement hallways. And there was some kind of very loud, if I can find that episode, I'm going to actually process that and do that one, because that was crazy. It was a very loud vocalization coming from the other end of the hallway. It was a scream or something at the other end of the hallway. And they were including the guy that worked there, that was the guide, because this was when he was still showing them around. They were petrified, rightfully so. And Colin finally worked up the nerve to say, let's go down there and try to see if we can get close to it. And so they start walking down there, and it did it again. It was louder. It sounded like they were getting closer. It's scaring the hell out of them. But here's the crazy thing. They get to the end of the hall, and it flips to the other end of the hall, and they hear it back where they were at. And they're like, wait, what? Wait, what? I don't understand. What? So it's not down here no more. It's over there. And I want to say it was the same episode. It might have been a different episode. Again, Colin, Paranormal Files, they had a vocalization. I think it was an outside location. And Colin went towards it. To his credit, he went towards it and tried to get close to it, and it did it again. It flipped and went the opposite direction of where they came from, back up the hill or wherever they were at, and it started doing it up there. Now, I've seen on other channels, again, similar situation, vocalization, they go towards it, it flips. It flips and goes away. Like, if you actually go towards this stuff, at least with a camera and a recorder, by the way, now, you do this with no equipment on you, I cannot guarantee your safety, but at least with recording and with other people with them, you go to the location that it's coming from, it will go away from you and go somewhere else. Which I find very, very interesting. That's part of the trickster spirit mentality. Follow these beings, and it's just a thing. Just keep that note on you right there. But I think this is let's go to the last clip here.
Dude, what
Yo,
the
that
fuck
was fucking
that?
crazy! What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that, Connor? What the fuck was that? God damn it, bro. We're like so deep, even just to get here.
Yeah, that I lost my place again there, but yeah, that will conclude it right there. A lot has been discussed here, so digest that, do with it what you may. Definitely give me some comments down below as to your thoughts on some of the situations. Like I said, we're open-minded here. There are things I'm looking into that just the preponderance of evidence is really starting to point in a direction, but I am not closed-minded about any of it, and we can discuss it openly. And let me know what you think in the comments. We're going to be exploring this further for sure. Again, this isn't the total normal format that I expected to do. Some videos will be like this, but a lot of the videos will be a lot more breaking of audio down. I know we got some stuff coming out here in a minute. There was an episode recently from a team that it was so much stuff going on. This might take me who knows how long to process because it was nuts. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, turn on your alerts, because I will be trying to get that up as soon as possible. And that's just audio back to back. So anyway, we will leave it there. I want to get on and start working on the next episode here. And we will see y'all in a minute.